All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving deep into one of the biggest, most talked about topics,
Huge.
gay marriage. You know it, you've seen the headlines, and we're going to unpack it all right here, right now, from the arguments to the history, even some real-life stories.
I think what people will find really fascinating is just how much this debate really gets to the core of like what society is about. You know, how we define family, the role of law,
Yeah.
human rights.
It's a big one, for sure. And that's why we're here, to sort through it all. So let's jump right in, shall we? The big question. Denying same-sex couples the right to marry, is that a violation of basic equality? I mean, straight up.
Well, a lot of legal scholars, they say absolutely yes. Like when you deny a whole group of people the right to marry just based on who they love,
Right.
it raises huge questions about like equal protection under the law.
I see what you mean. Like, how is that any different from, say, those big civil rights cases?
Yeah.
Like, what was it, Loving v. Virginia?
Exactly. That one struck down laws against interracial marriage. The parallels are like right there.
Wow. Yeah, okay, that's a really strong comparison. So legally, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But does legalizing gay marriage actually change anything out there in the real world?
Oh, it totally does. There's this 2018 study, it was in the Journal of Marriage and Family, and they found that kids raised by same-sex couples in the U.S. after legalization, they actually,
Yeah, sure. Okay.
yeah, after, they showed improvement in like well-being, particularly in things like education, how they develop socially,
Hmm.
compared to before it was legal, you know?
So stronger families.
Exactly. It points to that, like a more stable, supportive environment, which is what marriage is supposed to be about, right?
For sure, for sure. So it's not just a legal thing. It actually has a real impact on people's lives.
Totally.
What about, like, the economic side of things? Any changes there?
Oh, yeah. Some economists think that marriage equality in the U.S. actually boosted the economy by like billions of dollars.
Whoa, hold on. Really?
Think about it. More weddings, that's a whole industry. Tourism, all the stuff that comes with celebrations. Turns out love and celebrating it
Celebrating it, yeah.
can be a real economic engine.
That's wild. So we've got the legal argument, potential societal benefits, but we got to be real here. This is deeply personal too, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the impact it has on the mental health and well-being of LGBTQ plus individuals, it's huge. I mean, imagine living in a world where your relationship is always seen as somehow less than.
Yeah.
That wears you down. But studies have shown that in states where gay marriage is legal, you see mental health disparities among same-sex couples actually decrease.
So having that recognition, being seen as equal,
Yeah.
it actually makes a difference.
A huge difference.
But we also have to acknowledge the other side of this. Not everyone's on board with gay marriage. What are some of the concerns that people have?
Yeah, a lot of the concerns come from like traditional views of marriage, a lot of times tied to religious beliefs, and it's super important that we understand and respect those views. But it brings up a really important question. Do personal beliefs, even religious ones, automatically become law for everybody in a diverse society? Like that's a big one to think about.
That's a tough one, a real head scratcher. You also hear that legalizing gay marriage will, like, fundamentally change society, yeah, like the whole fabric of it. Is there any proof of that?
Well, you got to be careful to separate real evidence-based concerns from just like fear of the unknown. Sometimes people get caught up in assumptions and misinformation. We have to really look at those fears, the actual data, and ask ourselves, what are we truly afraid of? Like, what does history teach us about how societies change and values evolve over time?
You're right. I mean, if we look back the history of same-sex relationships, how they've been viewed, it's a wild ride, honestly. Like, did you know that in ancient Rome, same-sex relationships were pretty common? Some circles even celebrated them.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it wasn't until way later, with the rise of Christianity, that things started to shift big time.
It makes you realize how much these ideas about relationships, about marriage, they're not set in stone. They're shaped by culture, by society.
They totally are. And speaking of different approaches, what about civil unions? You know, same legal rights, just a different name. Does that solve the problem?
That's a tricky one because it gets into like, what does equality really mean? Is separate but equal actually equal at all?
I see what you mean.
Or does it create like a hierarchy, like one's better than the other? Would you be okay with a different label for your own love just to make other people comfortable?
That's a powerful question. Really makes you think. So let's talk about what actually happened in places where they did legalize gay marriage. Was it the end of the world, like some people said it would be?
Well, in a lot of countries where it's legal now, studies show that, society didn't implode or anything. It mostly had either positive effects or no real change at all.
Huh, interesting.
Traditional marriage, which some people were worried about, it didn't crumble. If anything, it created more inclusion, more acceptance for LGBTQ plus folks.
Sounds like fear of the unknown might be a bigger factor than people realize.
Maybe so.
And it's so easy to get lost in the legal stuff, the debates. But at the end of the day, this is about real people, real lives. Like, I read this story once about this young guy, and when his parents could finally get legally married, he said it was like this weight lifted off his shoulders, not just for him, but for his whole family.
Stories like that really bring it home. It's about everyone having the freedom to build a life with who they love, no matter who they are.
It's powerful stuff. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Legal arguments, societal impacts, the history, personal stories. Where do you stand on all of this?
The fight for marriage equality, it's just one piece of this much bigger movement for human rights, for social justice. It reminds us that we're always working towards equality, that we have to keep looking at our own beliefs, challenge what we think we know, and push for a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect.
And that's what it's all about, really. This conversation, it doesn't end here. Keep digging, keep asking questions, keep learning. This is just the beginning.